Hey, what's up YouTube? This is the Mermail Master coming back again from you guys for the Team Time Riders Yugioh channel with a brand new video for you today. It's probably not a video that you asked for, but I'm sure that it's going to be one that you guys are going to enjoy. Basically, what I have right here is an updated wind-up deck profile, and as you can see, it's with the brand new link format, taking into account all of that. I'm super excited to have this deck profile for you, primarily because, wind-ups, I feel, are one of the decks that are best serviced by the new link format. They're a deck that loves to spam monsters onto the board, and not to mention, they're a deck that has complete mastery over, what monster zones happen. A lot of times in certain wind-up strategies, you see, the 5 monster zone limit is, it can be a little bit challenging to try and commit monsters and commit other cards to the board, and definitely freeing up some of that space is tantamount to the play. Link monsters do become a big part of this strategy, primarily because as windups being an XYZ spamming focused deck, you can't really do that to the level that you can under link format. But I feel like this list is a perfect way to sort of take advantage of the benefits that links have, while trying to mitigate some of the losses that the deck, has in result of not being able to have the link monsters in here. Windups themselves, I think, all they need is just a little push from Konami. If we get that party boat back, it'll make the deck a little less fragile right now, but it is definitely something that does show its age. You're not going to be able to take this to a YCS or regional, but to locals, I've taken this there and I've done pretty well with it. And people don't expect a deck like this. That's, pure fact of the matter. And if you can get the drop on your opponent in the same way that, for instance, a spiral deck can get the drop on them, you can see big results very fast. So yeah, guys, I'm not going to speak for any longer, but we're going to get into the deck profile, and I'm going to show you what I play along the way. So let's get things started. So the first cards that we're going to start out here with the wind-up monsters. For those of you guys who don't know what the wind-up monsters do, basically the wind-up monsters all have effects that can only activate once while they're on the field, kind of like a wind-up toy. They wind up, they activate an effect, and then that effect, does something, either special summoning a wind-up, banishing oneself, just a lot of different effects, searching. For some cards, it's even discarding cards as well, or increasing their levels to allow you to go into a variety of XYZ monsters. So it's a toolbox-based deck. And the key card in this deck here is Wind-Up Magician. Wind-Up Magician is a card that was at 1 for a while, recently went off to 2, I think on a list around a year ago. And you got to run this card at 2 because whenever a wind-up effect would activate, this card allows you to special summon another wind-up monster from your deck in defense position. So really good card and a key piece to a lot of your combos. I wish that Konami would put the card back up to 3. It desperately needs it, as well as the entire wind-up deck. It's been power creeped far too much, and so we would love to see this card come back to 3. But Wind-Up Magician is a key playmaker for a variety of different combos in the deck. The next card right here, the thing that made the deck meta back in the day, back in 2012, 3 copies of Wind-Up Shark. Wind-Up Shark is one of your big playmakers because he has an effect from his hand that allows him to special summon himself whenever you have a wind-up monster that is normal or special summon. So it's not when you do it, but it's whenever a wind-up monster is normal or special summon, you can trigger this effect to special summon it from your hand, and that'll kick off the Magician, which will allow you to grab something from your deck. So I can go over a couple of the different combos either in this video or in a different video, depending on how long this one lasts. But Wind-Up Shark is fantastic, and then once per turn, and this is a once per turn that you can activate at any time. Wind-Up Shark can either increase or decrease its level by 1 until the end of the turn. So another great way. It's a fantastic way to trigger tons and tons of wind-up effects in this deck, and you absolutely got to run the card at 3. The next card we have in here is probably one of your other main ways of searching. That's Wind-Up Rabbit. Wind-Up Rabbit can banish himself or banish another wind-up, allowing you to have it return during the next standby phase, and then get off an effect. So it's a really good card for pushing for a lot of advantage. Or if you're willing to invest the turns into keeping the advantage plays up, you can definitely do a lot with Wind-Up Rabbit. And the last main wind-up card we have in here is 3 copies of Wind-Up Rat. This is basically like your wolf bark of the deck. When you have this card on the field in attack position, you can switch him to defense position, and he'll special summon any wind-up monster besides wind-up rat from your graveyard. So this is super good for putting on more plays for XYZs, or even for making more plays for link monsters. There's a lot of different monsters in here for a lot of different archetypes, and you'll see the link monsters that I run to help us take advantage of the wind-up monsters' myriad types and attributes. But Wind-Up Rat is one of your big playmakers in this deck and puts a lot of advantage and work in for you. So, the final Wind-Up monster that we're running in the deck is 2 copies of Wind-Up Warrior. This is great getting summoned off of Invoker, or you can summon this on the field normally. He can increase either his level or any other Wind-Up monster's level by 1, and then increase their attack power by 600 points. The attack power boost is not really anything, but you really want to use him for his ability to increase any wind-up monster's level. This can make a level 3 into a level 4, any level 4 into a level 5. Just basically a lot of great stuff. You can combo off him with Shark a lot to go for some interesting XYZ plays. So definitely a great card. He'll probably go down to 1 or get cut if we get a 3rd Magician. But for now, Wind-Up Warrior, I believe, is a card that is necessary at 2. So that's it for the Wind-Up monsters. The last monsters we're still running my mainstay of cards that I've had in here for a while, and that is 3 Stick and 3 Chair. But now, these Star Seraphs are really great for going for like Delteros and for, other great monsters. In the OCG they go for Shockmaster and whatnot. But basically, Stick and Chair combo off to allow you to go for rank 3s. Like, if you have Stick in your hand, normal summon Stick, Stick can search a Chair. If you have a Chair already in your hand, you special summon the Chair, and then you can special summon that other thing. And Chair, you can special summon the Chair that you searched after you special summon the Chair that was already in your hand, and you can go for rank 3 right away. Basically, Stick allows that, and then Chair's effect to special summon is not only that, but when you do that, you can draw and reveal a card from the top of your deck. And that's not just, excavate and reveal. That's draw and, reveal. If it's a Star Seraph, you can special summon the card right away. Or if it's not, which most of the time it will not be, you can add that card directly to your hand. So basically, it effectively removes the advantage of being able to do that. Excellent card here. Star Seraph Scepter, when used for an XYZ summon, I think it is a rank 3, a monster requiring 3 or more materials, you can activate its effect to allow you to destroy 1 card on your opponent's side of the field and then draw a card, which is a really awesome effect, especially when you stack that with Delteros. So you get a bunch of draws and a bunch of destructions. You do 2 Chairs, that's 2 draws, overlay with a Scepter. That's a 3rd draw, and then you get 2 pops after that, and you have Delteros on board. So really fantastic. Under links, these guys become even better because they're Star Seraph Sovereignty has an effect that restricts you from XYZ summoning while you're under it restricts you from XYZ summoning while you're under 3 materials. So you can't use this for like any rank 2, which would make the card like absolutely fantastic. But it has no restrictions for links whatsoever. So you can stack, you can stack Scepters, you can stack Sovereignties, and allow you to go into a myriad of different link monsters. You can go into Decode Talker, you can go into that Firewall Dragon, you can go into like any of the World Chalices as well. When the new Link Vrains pack comes up, I'm going to update this deck once again with more stuff that'll allow you to use Stick and Chair even more effectively. So really great cards. One thing I will note about these cards, unfortunately, though, is that they do also require the normal summon. But as I said, they're an engine meant to work in tandem with the wind-ups that are just as powerful, if not more so, than the wind-ups, and provide that little bit of extra support to the deck. So that's it for the monsters. Now moving on to the spells and traps. It would not be a wind-up deck without 3 copies of Wind-Up Factory. Wind-Up Factory is your big playmaker in this deck, and you absolutely have to have this card at 3. Whenever a wind-up effect would be activated, and this can be during either player's turn, you can search any wind-up monster from your deck to your hand. This is amazing. The combo used to go, like, there was an OTK combo that used to involve... who was it? It was Magician, Shark, and Factory, where you normal summon the Magician, special the Shark, and then Shark's special summon effect would trigger Factory, and Magician special summon effect. You grab the rat, go into the Papilloperative, and then, you know, keep comboing off on your plays from there. So that was a really, really good play in this deck. And something that I guess I wouldn't want to say that it got lost in time, but it's definitely not as powerful as it once was. The next cards that we are running in the deck here are a personal tech of mine, and that is 2 copies of Scapegoat. Scapegoat, as you guys know, you've seen it in Sergio's deck profiles before, and you've seen it in several other deck profiles, whether it's Lightsworn or Trickstar or whatever. But basically, these guys are great for, you know, if you don't OTK, you activate Scapegoat, and that's automatically 4 tokens for anything, including, like, for instance, a free Firewall Dragon. You can go for a Firewall Dragon, you can go for Mrs. Radiant, and then have 2 extra tokens for, like, some kind of other Link monster that you want to go for. It's just a really, really versatile card, and it's definitely something that I would recommend, you know, for people to consider, because let's be real, like, windups really can't put the same kind of advantage on the board as, like, some of the other strategies can, and having the ability to be able to create a field where you can summon like 2 to 3 XYZ monsters without like using any kind of resources except for this Scapegoat, I think is a huge, huge thing. You know, this deck cannot make the number 42 Starship Galaxy Tomahawk as easily, so it's definitely something that players should consider, and I've had fantastic luck with I've had fantastic results with the Scapegoats, and I highly recommend them for any wind-up player or any person thinking about playing this deck. So that's the 2 Scapegoats. Next cards we're running in here are 2 Galaxy Cyclones. Yes, this is 2017, and those new decks just came out, so I'm glad to be able to have picked up some of the Cyclones. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I've been working a lot recently, guys, so I haven't been able to have as much time to devote to just picking up cards that I need for certain decks. But finally being able to get my hands on these 2 Galaxy Cyclones was huge. This is basically like MST, except much, much better. You pay 1,000 life points, and I mean, you're trying to OTK anyway, so the life points shouldn't really matter, but you're paying 1,000 life points, and you can banish a spell or trap your opponent controls. And this is really great because a lot of spell and trap cards have effects in the graveyard, particularly the spiral stuff have effects in the graveyard. And so having Cosmic Cyclone out there can really help you to you know, get rid of those cards. And it's just a fantastic, fantastic card that perfectly kind of, you know, balances out the power creep for all of these cards that suddenly have graveyard effects. So at least in this format right now, it is a lot better than MST, but we don't know whether or not that will change. But Cosmic Cyclone is great in here at 2. The next card we're running is my personal tech. It's a card that I stand by constantly, and that is 2 copies of Messenger of Peace. Messenger of Peace has saved my ass in numerous occasions. I can't tell you the number of times where I have been saved by this card. Messenger of Peace's effect is that any monster, when it's on the field, any monster cannot attack as long as his attack is 1,500 or higher. So this is not a card that's affected by levels like Gravity Bind, or, you know, is not a card that's affected by ranks. So it will stop Link monsters from being able to attack as well. There's not too many things out right now, aside from an MST, Twin Twisters, or Cosmic Cyclone, that can really negate or destroy, you know, a continuous card that's already on the field. It doesn't have any kind of activation request effect, so it's a continuous effect, which means that the number of things that can stop the activation or that can stop the, you know, like whatever for this card, like, it's very, very low number. So definitely a great thing to consider for this deck if you're thinking about running it. The real reason that I love this card so much is not only because of that effect, but also because of the 100 life points that you have to pay every single turn to keep it active. And if you choose not to pay that 100 life points, this card will automatically be destroyed. So it's basically a card that you can turn on and off whenever you see fit. So if you know that you have OTK, you have game next turn, you can just choose to destroy Messenger of Peace during your standby phase by not paying the 100 life points, which, you know, is the lowest possible cost you could pay to keep a card this fantastic on the field. It's basically like no cost. You just do that and pop the card, and you're pretty much golden from there to go for your OTK and stop your opponent. So it's just a fantastic card, really, really great. Works awesomely with Wind Up Rabbit as well. Lots of your windups have low attacks. So moving on from Messenger of Peace, the final couple of spell cards we have in here are 2 copies of Pot of Duality. Really great for digging through your deck for windup cards. As the deck speeds up, however, I'm thinking about possibly like playing around with my ratios on these. I don't know whether or not I'm gonna take them out or not. They've been like fantastic in this deck for a while, but I think like there are like different consistency cards that we can add in here that can help to do the same things that Duality does, with a lot more gusto, I guess. But really, really good card, and happy to have Duality in here. The final spell card we're running, of course, is 1 Soul Charge. This is a wind-up deck. You got to have that Soul Charge in there. Soul Charge is a great, great card for pushing for just more extensions of your plays if you can't go for a battle phase or an attack, which sometimes you can't. Sometimes the deck is a little bit easy to stop in that respect, but Soul Charge is super, super good for just if you get stopped by a play. Soul Charge will allow you to continue to extend out, because as I mentioned, the card wind-up cards state once while they're on the field, and not necessarily once per turn, like as on a hard once per turn. So it's only once when they're on the field. So it's a really interesting activation effect and allows you to get a lot more advantage out of Soul Charge than you would normally. Now moving on to the trap cards. Trap cards are pretty self-explanatory here, guys. We have 3 copies of Reckless Greed. This was a mainstay for my last deck, and I still like to have them in this one. It just basically like, it's just fantastic. Like, it gets you more cards from your hand, and if you have multiple Reckless Greeds, you can stack 4 cards and only miss 2 draw phases. The best I've done is I've drawn all 3 Reckless Greeds, stacked 6 cards, missed 2 draw phases, but, still had the ability to search stuff out. If you set up all your combos correctly, you shouldn't even have to miss those phases. So definitely a fantastic card to think about running if you guys are going to be running a wind-up deck. Now, next we have 2 copies of Storming Mirror Force and 2 copies of Quaking Mirror Force. Awesome, awesome cards. You will get your monsters and your zones attacked into a lot. If the Messengers of Pieces only come up very, very rarely, so it's not like you're going to see them every game. Quaking and Storming help prevent that. Storming is a little bit better versus Lynx versus Quaking, which is better, against effect monsters and fields of that nature, and allow you to easily remove certain cards from the field. And it's just basically like really, really like great kind of thing. And the added benefit to having like a Quaking Mirror Force in here is that if your opponent has like a Photon Papal Operative, for instance, or if you summon your Photon Papal Operative, like you'll be able to just flip their monster back up, and that monster will lose 600 attack. So it allows you to get also a little bit more use out of Pappy, which is something I never thought I would say. But between Storming and Quaking, you're pretty much like very, very set in terms of battle phase interactions. So now we have another addition, which is 2-Dimensional Barrier. Really another fantastic card for stopping your opponent's plays. This is great against pendulums. This windups cannot outspeed pendulums. They cannot outspeed like fusions or things like that. You have things in here to deal with links, but you also need to have stuff that deals with pendulums, fusions, synchros, and XYZs, and Dimensional Barrier fits that mold perfectly. I'm finally happy that I'm able to get my hands on them. I'm not going to pretend that I'm Mr. Rich Guy over here in terms of trying to spend my money on Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but it's great to be able to have Dimensional Barrier in an easily accessible format. So you guys, find that new starter deck and, the structure deck and pick up your copies, because D-Barriers, Cosmic Cyclones, and the Storming Mirror Forces are all inside. And then the final cards we have in the deck are 1 copy of Torrential Tribute, 1 copy of Compulsory Evacuation Device to round it out. I thought about adding the Solemn Brigade in here. I might do it in a future kind of time, but I'm just playing around with some of the life points right now in the same way that, Cosmo does. So I'll let you guys know definitely what I find. All right. So that's it for the main deck. I believe it is 42 cards, if I remember correctly. Now moving on to the extra deck, which I think is the part that you guys have all been waiting for. So to start off with the extra deck, we're starting things off right now pretty simple. And we have one copy of Firewall Dragon. Firewall Dragon is one of your huge playmakers in the windup deck, and it's just primarily because of all of his different effects. You use 4 monsters to summon him, and it's any 4, so he's basically a generic 4 monster summon. You can summon him off of that scapegoat as well, and once per turn he can bounce back any monsters from your graveyard or from the graveyards or the field back to the hand. So awesome for either fetching back like certain monsters that you have, if you have like a Link 3 on him, and then certain monsters that you have or certain monsters that your opponent has that are particularly bad. But then the real effect where he comes in is whenever you have a card that's sent to the graveyard, a monster is sent from the field to the graveyard or destroyed by battle, then you can special summon any monster from your hand. And as you guys know, like, windups and particularly the Star Seraphs can get tons and tons of use out of Firewall's effect because it allows you to basically extend your plays out by a massive margin. Firewall's from hand effect, like, just pushes forward your agenda in this deck by, like, crazy. You absolutely have to run this card. It's one of the most fantastic Link monsters that I think has come out. Konami might limit the card down to 1 in kind of an unprecedented move just because of how much advantage. And that from hand summon effect is not once per turn. So you can just keep spamming things from your hand when things go to the graveyard, which is just absolutely fantastic. Fetching things back, spamming them, and putting in just more and more like damage and plays. So really great card. The next card that we're running in the deck is one copy of Mrs. Radiant for our Link 2s here. Mrs. Radiant is probably the most versatile Link 2, or one of the most made Link monsters in this entire deck, primarily because it combos with, you can make this off of your scapegoat, and then you can also make like something else off of the scapegoat as well. You can make it off of Warrior, you can make it off of Rat, you can make it off of Rabbit, you can make it with an Invoker play. There's just so many different ways that you can make Mrs. Radiant on board, and her arrow pointing is a lot better than what Firewall has, at least for like special summoning all of your original XYZs. She has the arrow pointing down on the left and down to the right, which can just come in so much handy for just everything that you're trying to do in this deck. Next, we have one copy of Ebe. Ebe is really great at protecting all your monsters, and as you know, wind-up monsters have a lot of different types and attributes, so getting the material, like the necessary materials on the field to allow you to summon Ebe is not a tall order whatsoever. You can just get her out and just continue to wreck face with her. Just a fantastic card, and definitely something that I would recommend for any wind-up player. The last 2 monsters that we have in the deck here are one copy of Gaia Saber the Lightning Shadow, another great generic monster as well. One thing that I will mention though is, you can switch this out for like Link Spider / Proxy Dragon. That is something that I have considered doing, but I'm just still playing with ratios right now, as I told you guys. So Gaia is really good as a rank 3, and then also has some good arrows pointing left and pointing right. And the final Link monster we've got is Decode Talker. Pretty much self-explanatory. This is a Link deck. You gotta run Decode Talker. And he also has some really great negation effects as well, and frees up your field with those negation effects. Like, sometimes in wind-up decks, you do have those situations that you come across where, wind-ups are not necessarily, like, the best at stopping negation. So, having a little bit of that interaction on your opponent's turn while also getting rid of, monsters that you've already used up can be very beneficial for your plays. Now that the Links are done, we are moving into the XYZ monsters. So we're going to start out here with the rank 3s. And, since we don't have Party Boat, we only have 2 rank 3s here. That is one copy of MX Saber Invoker, and one copy of Leviair the Sea Dragon. Both do effects that have to do with spamming. MX Saber Invoker will grab a warrior from your deck, versus Leviair the Sea Dragon, who will grab any windup that you banish back to your field. So really great for extending out plays, and you mostly use these guys to stack into other things. It's not on the same level of stuff, and you can remove them for Link plays if necessary. So really good for just helping you to build like better fields. That's one of the things that I think windups struggle with, is that the XYZ monsters that they couldn't that they went into for the longest time were not really like meta relevant. So, definitely having this changes a lot about the game. The next cards that we're running in here is one copy of Satellar Knight Delteros. This guy is awesome for those, as I mentioned, those Star Seraphs, and for like any other windups. And his once per turn pop effect is fantastic and definitely very, very useful. He also cannot be Solemn Warning because when he's summoned to the field, his effect prevents any of those effects from being negated or whatever. So really great. If your opponent's got a Solemn out, they can't negate Delteros' summon, and then Delteros can just detach a material and pop the warning in their back row. So super awesome for helping to push for more damage. We've got one Volcasaurus for obvious reasons for that effect. Really, really great. Pop a monster, inflict the attack points as damage. We've got one Shark Fortress in here. Another awesome, awesome card. Just can pick any monster on the field, and that monster can attack twice. So just very, very good. It's like just something that you can definitely use to push for OTK. Got a copy of Dweller in here. Dweller's just an all-purpose rank 4. It's not nearly as potent as it used to be, but it's definitely something that everyone should be running. And then we've got one copy of Castel the Sky Blaster Musketeer. Pretty self-explanatory. Fantastic card for bouncing back things. And also flips your windups. This can actually, flip face-up windups down, and then you can flip them back up and you can re-get their effects. So he actually is better for the windup deck than Windup Zenmeister. Believe it or not. Castel does like everything. So you sometimes will find yourself availing yourself of that first effect, believe it or not. But most of the times you'll use the second one, as people do. We got that one Photon Papal Operative right here. Really great for switching defense monsters into attack position and pushing for more of those OTK plays. And you'll often also use this guy for link monsters as well, because he doesn't exactly have the highest amount of attack. You want to just assemble a big field for your OTKs. And the final two cards that we are running in this deck right now, we have one copy of Utopia and one copy of Utopia the Lightning. This is more for that OTK-centric strategy. It's very easy for you to get two level 4s on the field and just push for that OTK right there with Utopia and Lightning. People do try and tend to negate certain things with Lightning, or they try to get the Utopia off the field when they know that you're going to try and go for Lightning. But it's a risk worth taking in this deck, because I think this deck is very, very much risk and reward. So that's a 15-card extra deck. I haven't have a side deck for this, but pretty much that's everything with the deck. So 42-card main, 15-card extra deck, and a really, really great strategy. I've enjoyed building this, and I've enjoyed improving it, and finally, after being able to get all of those cards together, it's been a great, great experience being able to put this together for you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. I know it went very, very long, but I hope that it gave you kind of like a good look into windups and a good look into, where I think the deck should be going within the next couple of formats, and with the link monsters, working together to create better stuff. And then hopefully in the future, windups might get their own link monster. So very, very exciting for us. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Really, really appreciate it. If you do like the video, please remember to give a like down below. And if you want, you can rate, comment, and subscribe below. But this has been the Mermail Master with the Team Time Riders YouTube channel, and I'm signing out. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.